Hi, it's me, your boyfriend slash girlfriend slash they friend's favorite content creator. And one thing I want to talk about with you guys today is something that's been bothering me for a very long time. And it is the fact that we are seeing an influx of people who aren't critiquing video games, but are complaining about them. And here's what I mean. Stop me if you heard this before. A game comes out from a AAA developer, a Western AAA developer, and before there's even any hands-on or even like a real trailer for game or anything like that, there is already 1,000 videos out on the same topic talking about how the game's a failure, it's too woke, it's XYZ, right? We have gotten to the point where criticism, and complaining are now one and the same, and they simply shouldn't be. I want to talk about this because it's been driving me insane, because we can no longer just talk about games, whether they're good or bad, on their own merits. Everything's getting sucked into this stupid fucking culture war. Suicide Squad, Call of Justice League, was a game that did not do well, was not well received. Now, most, I would say, normal people can look at that game and find a myriad of reasons why, on like a technical level, on its own merits, why it didn't work. For example, a lot of people were expecting this to be a single-player game. So there's an expectation because the studio, Rocksteady, previously did a whole Arkham trilogy, which were single-player, action-adventure focused type games. So when you heard that it was going to be a always online, games as a service, looter shooter type, a lot of the hype died down, especially because it looked like a very generic looter shooter. Like, it did nothing special. The backlash was immense towards the trailer. As far as the actual gameplay goes, it has very repetitive mission structures. In fact, the end game is just doing the same shit over and over and over and over and over and over and over. That can be very off-putting to people. Some might even say, like, mechanically didn't feel too good, or it doesn't make any sense for certain characters to use guns, like King Shark, who's a big fucking like shark god who could just tear into people. Why would he be using that? Why would Captain Boomerang be using anything but his boomerangs? It makes more sense for someone like Deadshot to be like a weapon specialist, and everyone to have their own like more physical attributes, right? Because that's what each character represents. Many more criticisms like that are valid. But that's not what we see more often than not, right? What we see is this game is bad because woke. Oh, Suicide Squad Kill Justice League did bad, not because of any of the aforementioned critiques, but because there was a minor trans flag in Metropolis. It did bad because we don't think Wonder Woman's attractive. It did bad because, hey, they're making all these characters, these male characters, they're emasculating them and letting the female characters look better by comparison. Those aren't critiques. Those are complaints. Those are biases that people have, and they have been misconstrued into valid criticism. That is one of the biggest things these grifters will do. There's a reason why they're able to pump out video after video after video after video, 10, 30 fucking videos a week, 5 videos a day about these topics. It's because they have a checklist that they look at, and then whatever hits that checklist, that's why the game's bad. 100%. What's happening right now with Destiny 2? A lot of these chuds are talking about how Destiny 2's gone bad because it's woke. Not because, and by going bad, it means the player numbers aren't where it was before. Not because of mismanagement from Bungie or, about Sony acquiring them and overstating their value. Not because of the fact that the story for Destiny is pretty much wrapped and done. So, like, there would have less players playing it. Nope, nothing to do with that. Because it's woke and gay, and that's why it's doing bad. That's their excuse for everything. If there is an element they do not like, then that element is the reason why it's a bad game. There are people out there who are reviewing games using that same sort of rubric. There's a person by the name of, I used him before, I forgot his name, like Indymon or whatever. He did a review of Spider-Man 2, and was talking about how terrible the game is because you have to play as a deaf woman, and how they're trying to push Miles Morales and yada, yada, yada. Nothing about the actual game itself. Nothing about the game on its own merits. Only in relation to their own established biases, hence the culture war. You could talk about how maybe, the section where Venom didn't last too long, or maybe didn't like the twist that Venom was. I'm not going to spoil it for anyone, but You see what I mean? There's ways you can analyze and critique things, but they will never do that. And I'm getting so tired of this just being flooded on YouTube from a bunch of people who either do not enjoy games or simply don't understand how the criticism works. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that their world viewpoints are terrible. Their viewpoints are based in this weird binary where things are either woke or not. If a game has a male lead that isn't white, it's automatically woke. If they're not straight, it's automatically woke and therefore bad. But they can't apply the same logic to games that do critically well. Anytime they talk about go woke or go broke, you bring up a game that was successful, God of War 2, or sorry, Ragnarok, Spider-Man 2, Alan Wake, Baldur's Gate 3. They have nothing for you. They will try to go by sales, right? Since when sales were the only indicator of a game being good or not, like we don't have cult classics or anything like that, but whatever, they'll go by sales. But if you use that same metric as they do, it still doesn't hold up. Because again, if we say like Baldur's Gate 3, which won like a bajillion awards and sold all of the games all the time, they have nothing to say. A game is bad because it has LGBTQ elements in it, because you have non-white main characters, because you have women who aren't jerk-off material. But if that's present in a game that's objectively good, they can't critique it. Those elements are no longer the bad part, even though that's what they look for. I think it's time we stop giving these guys attention. I think it's time, as a community, we look at these people and laugh at them, because they cannot be critical at all, because being critical is the antithesis of their grift. Their grift relies on a complete lack of critical awareness. They do not review games on their own merits. You can watch any of their videos. None of their videos will ever talk about the actual game. What they will do is make assumptions. They will assume that a game is woke because X, Y, and Z, and they'll assume their reasoning for it. And I think you guys know where I'm going with this. Anytime a game seems to have a black character or queer character, anything of the sort, they blame Sweet Baby Inc. They blame concentration groups in general, but they blame Sweet Baby Inc. almost explicitly. And they do not understand what a consulting company does. But they don't have to understand it. They just have to use the scary buzzwords. It's DEI, it's BlackRock, it's ESG, but if it's woke. But if you ask them to actually sit down and explain it, they can't. There's no consensus. That's how when I do those videos about like, I found even more woke stuff, whatever, which I will continue to do because they're fun and also hilarious and a little bit sad. But when I do those kinds of videos, you'll see how their criteria change from group to group because there's no consensus. And some of them, for example, the last one I did with the woke games detected or woke detector or whatever, some of their reasoning was just pro DEI, and they don't tell you. They'll say a black person is using a big crossbow, and that's somehow bad. They don't explain to you why that is bad or what makes the game bad. They're just telling you there's black people in it. There's women in it. There's actually one game, I believe, called Paper Trail that's getting review bombed because the main character in a puzzle game is a woman who went to university. And that was one of the reasons why they put him on their list to begin with. What are you upset that the woman, you're just mad at the woman. You're just mad at the woman. It's a fucking puzzle game. You're mad at the woman's an astrophysicist? Why? There's nothing critical going on there or up there for them. It's all hate. It's all just for grifting money. That is it. It is one of the most lowest common denominator video you could possibly put out. Because you can do it with literally anything at all that you can imagine. It can be woke, no matter what. Any game. And by that extension, any game can also be not woke, even though it would fulfill the wokeness quota, right? Like, you have a game like a Call of Duty, right? Let's take Modern Warfare, like, whatever. And you're killing, I don't know, Russians. They would tell you there's no politics in that game. There's no agenda. There's nothing of the sort. Nothing going on there. Totally not woke. Oh, but there's a LGBT flag. Okay, now it's woke because now they're pushing an agenda. And it's like, no, If you're going to keep that as the metric, the agenda is already being there by putting the Russians as the enemy, by having you play as the heroes who are from the United States, who are these white guys in the military. There's already an agenda there. It's present within the game's framework. But because it's an agenda they agree with, they are not critical of it. So it doesn't exist. You could have a game that is about murdering as many people as possible in a small amount of time. You can make Hatred 2.0, but if you made the main character a non-white person, they would call it woke, and suddenly it would be about immigrants murdering native citizens and the Great Replacement theory, all that stuff. But whenever it's a white person doing something, that context is completely ignored in favor of just saying, it's just a good non-woke game. Again, I'm telling you guys, they do not critique anything. A critique is an analysis of a particular piece of media with the intention of, at the very least, showcasing what went wrong so they can do it better. That's what criticism is. You guys can critique my videos. You can say you don't like, how I use filler words a lot, or maybe you don't like the fact that I seem to choose random topics or have a bad upload schedule or whatever. Those are actual criticisms. Because you can help me improve. You can say, hey, maybe you should have specific days we upload X amount of videos or X type of videos, or maybe you should script more, or maybe you should this and that. That's valid criticism. But just saying, I don't like your background, I don't like the way that you sound, I don't like your haircut, I don't like this, those aren't critiques. Those are complaints. If you're playing a video game, let's say I'm reviewing Elden Ring. And if I'm doing a real review of like Shadow of the Erdtree, I could talk about how the game somehow seems to expand on its lore while also not giving us much in terms of maybe what we have expected. I could talk about how they used the jars from like Jarbird, those little cute things, and made it like a real like Cronenbergian thing that adds to the lore of the overall story, that gives you more insight of America and potentially why she shattered the Elden Ring, right? I could talk about things some mechanical level, how they use the not pronounced skidoo, but the shadow fragments to kind of level out the end game, so that like even if you're super powerful in a regular game, that you come in a little bit weaker, you level up, so you still have that kind of grindy experience. We can talk about the new weapon set. I could talk about the hand-to-hand combat that I think a little lackluster compared to the mods that I think clearly inspired it, but still a much improved over the original fist weapons, and a nice change of pace. And I talk about all those things. But if I was saying Elden Ring is bad because the most powerful person is a woman, and the hardest boss in the base game is a woman, and they feminized Mikola and made him take over the masculine body of Radon, like, do you see how that's not a critique of the actual game? It's just me complaining that doesn't fit to my narrative worldview. That's what I'm talking about. And after watching this video, which I've been yapping for like fucking 90 minutes now, I think you'll start to understand now when you see those videos, don't watch them, but if you have to watch them, listen to what they're actually saying. And at any point, are they actually critiquing the game on its own merits, or are they critiquing, which we know is complaining, because it doesn't fit their agenda? Are they talking about the game from mechanic level or story level, or are they making assumptions as to why things are a certain way and then telling you it would be better if they did it that way? Because again, that is not a critique. That is a complaint. I really want to hammer that point in. There is a distinct difference between complaining and critiquing. Saying that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is a bloated mess of a game because of its grindy post game with its repetitive content, those are critiques, because each things can be addressed and fixed, right? But saying too many women characters, or Wonder Woman ugly, or again trans flag, or X character ugly, or we don't want this character, why is this character black, like, that's not a critique. You're just complaining about things. And I know the algorithm rewards negativity, but I think we have to be tired of this, right? Aren't you guys tired of every time you see a new game trailer, you subconsciously know, especially if you're chronically online like me, that there's gonna be like 50,000 videos talking about, well, woke Chin, this character's ugly. They made her wear pants. They're ruining femininity. They're trying to destroy the nuclear family. They want to inject a feminist agenda by making boys soy boys because, oh my God, Joanna Dark has a jawline. Like, that's what they do. We basically do not need to take these guys seriously. They're fucking jokes. They really are. They are not capable of critiquing a goddamn thing, because for them, just complaining is criticism and analysis enough. And to all those channels who do that, I think you guys are a cancer in the community. You guys should not be in the gaming community, because you don't promote anything but negativity. You guys group up together, you have your weekly chats and group talks and whatever, and you just decide to attack people simply because they do not fit your standards. Instead of taking your own advice and like making your own entertainment, or just ignoring it and doing something else, you want to be the victim in everything and act like there's a cabal out to get you specifically. And you will use whatever metrics you can to make that reality, when in actual reality, the only people coming for you are you guys in your own heads. You guys are the only ones attacking yourselves. And in actuality, you guys are making these games worse, because you aren't allowing games to become diverse or try new things. They have to have the same 3 people in charge, or it's terrible. They have to have straight white guys in there, or it's bad. You're unable to relate to other characters. You don't know character growth or story arcs or anything like that. You don't understand how the gaming industry itself even works. You think that you do, but you clearly do not. You think that there are consulting companies with so much power that they can force companies to create characters whole cloth just to satisfy them, and they'll somehow blackmail them by asking their friends to write a bad review. Like, that's so far from reality. But you guys don't live in reality. You live in this weird fucking fantasy where you are the only gamers who understand that, no, there's a cabal coming after us and we're fighting the good fight. You're snowflakes. All you do is complain. You're pugs, you're perpetually unhappy groups. All you guys do is complain. Go away.